And welcome to the next video in the series. This one we'll be looking at the radio stack and how to program that into Stream Deck using Axis and Ohs. So the radio stack is this section here in the middle of the cockpit, and it's between the primary flight display and the main flight display, and it controls what we can transmit on, and it controls what we can hear, and what we're going to hear and receive. Just before we get into the programming bit, there's a little bit of stuff going on here which is in Microsoft's control. It's their programming. We don't have to worry too much about it. We just need to emulate sending these button presses, but it's worth seeing how this works. We've obviously got the two radios. We've got the COM1 and the COM2, and we can only speak on one at a time. So if we switch over here to COM2, we are obviously sending and receiving on COM2, but if you notice, we are still hearing COM1, we're receiving COM1, so it means you can be talking on one frequency while monitoring another one. And you can do that the other way around as well. We can have COM1 as our active and also monitor 2. So you can have your ATIS on one, which means you can listen to the ATIS and then switch it off. I've heard situations, I've been listening to some real ATC from America where they say, you know, stay on ground, talking to the tower, and you're going to talk to the tower in a minute, but they'll call you when they're ready, so you can be on ground here but have the frequency being monitored for tower, and when they call you, you can then switch over. So I've used it for being in control by the tower, but they've already given me the departure frequency, so I program that in and swap over to departure. So that's useful. But this is the interesting feature. As I switch between COM1 and COM2, you can see here that it remembers whether I had these set or not. If I come to COM2 back in, that COM1 stayed on. If I turn off, let's go back here. If I turn off COM1, it remembers that state that it was in. So if I switch between the two with it off, that retains that information. If I switch with it on, it retains that. And we don't have to worry about that. That's all handled behind the scenes for us. But keep an eye on it because it's useful, and don't get caught out by hearing things that you suddenly don't know where they've come from. Okay, so as usual, I will put up my actual live Stream Deck here, and the representation of it from the Stream Deck software here, so you can see the details, because that gets a bit blurry up there sometimes. And when we work with the actual software and do the work, we'll bring that into view as we need it. So we'll need the Stream Deck and we'll need the Axis and Ohs. So the first thing on the Stream Deck is I want to place this in the right position between the two displays. So we'll just move that over, and here we'll create a folder for the radio, and we'll sort out a graphic with some sort of screenshot later on. So if I press on the button here, we'll enter the folder and it's there ready for us. The next thing we normally do is go and look at the events and the variables so we can work out what we're going to use to program in. So we can also park that out of the way, don't need that for the moment. We'll come back to the Stream Deck in a minute. Let's park that software way out of the way. So let's have a look at these events. So if I click on COM1, you can see that it set the pilot and co-pilot to talk over the radio, but I'm not going to worry about the co-pilot today. I'm just going to worry about the pilot. So when it's on COM1, it sends a 0. If we switch to COM2, it sets a 1, so that's how it's indexed. Here it's COM1, that's sender 0, and effectively this is one double toggle switch. You can only be on one or the other, so to program this in we will be using two toggle switches. And now we need to look for the variable. It takes a while to hunt these things down, so I'll do the shortcut for you and show you what I found. So if we do a filter for transmit, and on the radio here, it's this COM transmit with the index. So let's look at that working. Now, strange enough, although this was indexed as 0 for that one and 1 for this one, the variable is indexed 1 for COM1 and 2 for COM2, and I'll show you that in action. So if I put a 1 here, and in fact what I'm going to do is copy that so I can use that again quickly and paste it back in again and just change the 2, so I don't have to go and select the variable again. That speeds things up. So there we are. On 1, there's 1 that's on. If we switch the buttons here, you can see that's now switched to 2 and that's off. So not indexed the same. That one there is 1 and this one's 0 when it's the events, but when it's the variable it's 1 and 2. So let's try putting this into 2 toggle switches on here. So law is Axis and Ohs, the toggles, and we need 2 toggles to switch between them, and we'll do this on first of all COM1 mic, and I've already captured that to my clipboard, so I will put that in for the variable straight away. So we're going to be reading variable, and I need to do just a bit of editing here. We don't need the A in the bracket because we get supplied with that here, and we don't need the last bracket. And the on value for that is 1, so that will affect how that works. And the event we want is, well, again, we can capture that from here. If we capture that, Control C, paste it in, edit it out because we don't need the K here, we've got that provided, that can go. And but for the top one, for this one here, remember that value is 0, so we'll be sending a 0 for that button, so that should make that live, and we'll submit that. And we must do mic, the COM mic 2 while we're here. So the title COM2 mic goes in here, and that one is to set the transmitter. Sending a 1, that sets this one correctly, but I need to go and get that variable again, and I haven't got it copied, so I need to go and pick it up from here again. But we've got the filter ready, and it's the COM transmit, so right hand click this time and drop it in there, and it's in the right form, but we need to put the index on here, and this is number 2 that we're looking at, on value of 1. So let's just check we've got all that set up, and we'll submit that, and we'll just double check the number 1. This is going to send a 0 for the setting the transmitter, and it's looking at number 1 to see if it's on. That looks fine, so let's just test it. I'll move that a little bit out of the way. There's COM1 going, there's COM2, and the receive channel is working with it quite happily. So what we need to do now is to program in here so we can press on the COM1 and COM2 just like this to disable the channels. Okay, so we'll have a look at what's going on. Let's clear this list, clear these variables out so we're not looking at stuff we don't really need. So what happens when we click on the COM1 receive? It's got a function actually for COM1 receive, and same here. If I press here, let's clear that list. COM2, there is a function dedicated, so it's not indexed, it's not a general purpose one, it's actually written specifically for that button, and it works really with an on-off. It's not a toggle, we need an on-off from Stream Deck. So let's bring Stream Deck in, and we need to find out what variable we're looking for. So let's select the variable, and this is all obviously to do with receiving, so let's put enough of a filter in there so we can look at receive. And here we've got the COM receive, and that is indexed. Let's see that in action. So let's put that in here. I'll do what I did before. I will copy it so I can reuse this. I will index it as 1 and add that. And you can see we're looking at COM1 here, and that's on and that's on, and we'll put one in for number 2. And we'll add that in. So as I switch between COM1 and COM2, you can see they're both live. I could turn this off, and that's it. So we're going to need an on-off switch to make this work. And I don't know if I've actually used an on-off switch before in my videos, so let's put one in and have a look at the structure of it. So this is COM1, and it's got the ability to write 2 events. We can write an on event. There's the write the on event here with the value, and same event but with a different value will send it off, and it knows what state it's in by looking at the variable to find out whether it's actually on or off. So that's how this one works. So let's put in, we're working on COM1, so it's COM1 receive select that we're going to press here. Double click on that, that brings it here, which means we can copy and paste it from there. And we can edit this up. That's an on, and we put the same in here. And that's an off. So that's what we're sending, and we need the variable here. So we'll need to repick that variable. It's that one there. So I'll do the right hand click and drop that into there. And we'll be receiving 1. And that's how it knows when it's on or not, and we'll submit that. Okay, so there's that one programmed in, we hope. And let's do the next one. So again, it's an on-off. COM2. I've got the variable held on the clipboard at the moment, so we can go straight down and drop that in. Index that one as number 2. Whoops, I do hate that. Let's go over that. On value of 1, and then we'll go and pick up the event from here. And if well, there is COM2, but of course we can always edit the 1 to a 2. But let's copy that and paste that event in. the same event again, but this time with the off value. Of 0, and we could submit that, and there we go. Right, so let's see if that's working. It's showing the right and you can see it on my small version over there that we've got both on. If I switch back to COM1, that's worked, that light's off now, so everything seems to be hunky-dory. So that's it for the mic channels, really. There's a COM Mic 3 button, but that's not here. We haven't got there are only 2 radios. This does nothing. Let's clear the list. Absolutely nothing on there, so we don't need to worry about that. The PA and speaker, I don't know how they work. There's no event for them. There is one for the speaker, but it seems to be on anyway, so I'm going to leave that. And then we come to the slightly mystery item at the moment, the marker. The marker is a bit of an old system for old airfields. It's still on some charts, but they seem to be dying off, as far as I can work out. If they fail, they're removing them. The idea is that as you fly in, there are 3 radio markers, an outer, a middle, and then the inner marker. It's telling you how close you are from your airfield from landing, and they have heights that you're supposed to be out of them, but they're really being superseded by the fixes on the GPS. So I haven't found anywhere yet to make these work, but I can sort of get the buttons to work so that when we click on a button on our Stream Deck, the light comes on, and that's the event. It's the marker beacon test mute, and I don't know whether pressing it mutes it, and that's live. I've got to go and explore that a bit more, but I can make the lights work, and then we can go and explore and find out what's going on. It's oops, wrong one. It sends, let's get rid of that and let's do it again. It sends a 0 to turn that off, and it sends a 1 to turn it on, so it's an on-off button again. And the variable for it, well, there are 2 that look to be of interest. There's this one here, the marker sound, so I'll add that in, and the other one on the marker is the marker beacon test mute, and we'll put that in. And as far as I can see, no matter what we do here, the sound is always on, but it's the test mute one that controls whether it's on or off. So that's the one that we're going to use. That's the one that's visible to us. So let's put that in onto Stream Deck. Let's bring Stream Deck back into play. And I'm going to put these buttons here on this section here, because I need 1, 2, 3 lines, and I've only got 2 left here, so we'll work over here. So we're going to put an on-off in there, and I will just call it marker for the moment, exactly as I have MKR, and I've got that variable already on the key on the clipboard, so we can drop that in. Oh no, I haven't got it, didn't put it on. Let's clear that out. I can get this one though. Double click here, and we've got the event here, so we can use the event. And we can write the on value, and the off. and we've got to get hold of that variable again, so we can select that. So it was the test mute. Do the right hand click and paste that in here, and the on value is a 1, and we'll submit that, and we'll just check that it works. Let's put that down here. So we'll watch that button as we press here. That goes on, that goes off. So it looks like it's functioning, so long as we can go and find somewhere to go and test it that's got a working marker system. High sensitivity. So that's linked to here, whether it's going to be listening to a lower power signal. And we'll watch, as ever, let's tidy up here, we'll watch Axis and Ohs in operation and see what we get. So we've got high sensitivity, it's a 1 when it's on, 0 when it's off, so it's exactly the same as the usual on-off button, and we can look at the variable here. And that's the one. So we'll double click and put it in. I'm going to copy it to my clipboard so we can use it if we think it's the right one. But that's off at the moment, that's off. Click here, it's on and it's on. So that's definitely the right one. So stream text back, an on off switch, sensitivity, and we could put the variable in. That's looking for the 1, and we want to get hold of this event here, and it's this one here. One for on, and the 0 for off. So just test that sensitivity. It thinks it's on, it thinks it's on up there, off, off. Yeah, that's working fine. So if you can find someone to test it, I'm pretty sure these will work. And I'm going to put that down. So the next one we've got here is the DME. If there are still some systems around which are just going to be transmitting the distance measuring equipment, for all of these, you're supposed to listen to the Morse code that's being transmitted to make sure you're tuned into the right one. So if you want to really go for the immersion experience, that's what you'd be required to do. So we shall put in the DME. So let's again watch the event here. And this one is a toggle. It's saying it's a toggle. And let's look for a variable for that. And it's an unusual one. It says DME sound. So let's put that in. Add that. And this one does toggle on and off. I looked at the sound for this one, for the marker, and that didn't change at all. But this one does. When I put it on, DME sound comes on, and then that goes off. And the event here is a 0 and a 1. So this looks straight like a toggle to me. So we'll bring this back into play, and it's a toggle for the DME, and that's the event we're after. all of that copied and pasted into here. And it'll work out what to send. We just send a 1. Now we need this variable, the DME sound. Right hand click, drop it into here. So we're looking for the DME sound, and it's a 1 when it's on. And we'll submit that. And again, if I press on the actual key here for DME, it comes on, it goes off. Let's go nav1, nav2. Let's have a look at the events for that. So let's clear the list and remove the variable. And nav1 is a toggle. It's labelled as VOR1. It sends a 0 when it's off and 1 when it's on, and we can check the variable on that. Again, it took a little bit of time to hunt this one down, but if we apply a filter for sound, we've got one here in the radio navigation area for the nav sound, and it says here we can have an index 1 or 2. It's not written here, but we can put that in here. So let's put the here we go, yeah, nav sound, let's put that in. And we can index that as nav1. And in fact, I'm going to copy that onto the clipboard so we can look at that later as well. Let's just check the index, because we're going to do nav2, and we'll just check that they're working as we expect them to. So we'll add that. So nav1 and nav2 both off. Nav1's on, nav2's on. So we've got a handle on that. So let's put some toggle switches in. So back on my Stream Deck, we might as well try and do nav1 and nav2 in tandem while we're doing this. So let's label these up so we know where we are. Nav1, and I've got the variable and the key on here at the moment, so we're going to read that variable for the nav1 sound, and that's a 1 that goes on there. So that's, it knows when it's on. I can put that event in now. And tell it to send a 1, but it'll work it out, so we can submit that. So that should be nav1 sorted. Let's swap these buttons around. There we go. Right, skipping on nav1 and the real nav1 on and off. That's okay. So we're going to do the same for nav2. In fact, what we could do, let's just move this across, we'll use that later. Let's copy this and edit this down. We'll paste it into here. So this is nav2. From experience, it's worth checking that that's number 2 as well. And it is. Okay, so the event is for VOR2. indexing it to 2, and then we can just submit that and check it out. Nav 2 on, Nav 2 off. So it's nice and easy. Last one to do then is the ADF. Let's clear these variables and the list, and we'll click on ADF. Again, it's an ADF, it's a toggle, we can toggle it on and off, and it looks like it works in exactly the same way. If we look for the sound for ADF, there's ADF sound there. So we've got that, and I'll copy it to the clipboard and we'll drop it in there, and we'll just check it's doing the same thing. So ADF on and off, so that's working fine. So back to our Stream Deck. And that was ADF. Did I capture? Yes, there's the sound. And I want the event to go in here. Submit, and a quick test for ADF. Make sure this is working, so I press ADF here. There's on and there's off. Yep. Okay, so they should work. Looking at the bottom of the stack here, there's no event attached to it, although the light does come on and off. No event attached to that, it does come on and off. And I said I'm not worried about the pilot and co-pilot, so I'm not going to worry with those. You could put a volume switch in here. If you look back at a previous video that I did, you could put a volume in here, but I'm just leaving it at full volume. So I'll leave that for you to tackle if you want to have a go with that one. And that's really it for this stack here. And while we're here, we probably came here because we need to speak to air traffic control. So what we'd like to do, I'm guessing, is to program in the various options onto buttons. So they just index 1 to, well, up to 10 in fact. So we can put those buttons onto the Stream Deck. And if we go across here, we can go 1 to 8 here, 9, 10 there, something like that layout. And let's get the events from Axis and Ohs. So if we do a filter for ATC, and there they are, all laid out. 1, 2, 3, 9 and 0 is option 10. Option 10 does come up occasionally. So let's start with option number 1. So we'll right hand click on there and we'll close up. And it's just simply an event. So we put an event in here, labeled as ACT1. And it sends a value of 1 by default. Submit, and then we can copy that across. There's 8 of them. 9, 10. And then we just edit them. Of course, what you must remember to do every time is press submit. It's very easy when you're in a hurry doing something mundane like this. to actually forget the submit button. We'll just do a couple and you can see the process. We're on 4, done 4. Losing my concentration already. Okay, so let's see that in action. So let's go and get the ATIS.
Echo Golf Charlie November Airport information Sierra 1100 Zulu. Wind 270.
Tune to ground.
Visibility niner. Sky condition.
Back to clearance.
1,700 feet. Few clouds at 4,700 feet. Ceiling 13,800 feet broken. Temperature 15.
So we can get around the menu system just by pressing single buttons. I don't know if you noticed, but when I called up the ACT filter here, that one says it activates the ATC window, but I've programmed that as an event and it doesn't open the menu. Let's have a go with this one. I'll right hand click and see if that opens the menu, but I haven't had any success before, but we've had some updates recently, so we can come back and try that. So let's close that down here. Let's bring back Stream Deck and we'll put an event button here. Okay, so obviously I need to close this, so I'll close that down and we'll try opening the menu. Nothing seems to happen. We can use Axis and Ohs scripting to watch our own event. And nothing happens, so I don't quite know what's going on there with that. What I did do previously, I used a standard feature of Stream Deck and I programmed up a key as a hotkey, and you can put a keyboard shortcut into there, so you could call that for ATC. The standard button is the scroll lock button, and I'm pressing scroll lock, and that's the one key that you can't map. So the way around that is to create another mapping in Microsoft Flight Simulator, find one that's not being used. Of course you have to remember it. The other problem with that is you actually have to have the Microsoft Flight Simulator has got to be the focus for input for it to work, but it does work as an idea, and you can map equivalent to the scroll lock key but not the scroll lock key, something different, and call up the menu, and you'll get the menu coming up looking like that. Okay, so that's possible. Well, that's the end of it all really. I noticed the number of subscribers has gone up. So as ever, you always ask for everybody, you subscribe, you get, and click the notify button, you'll know when I put something else up. I'm hoping in about a day or two time to start looking at making gauges, the sliding gauges, and perhaps some steam gauges as well. So that's kind of where we're heading. After that, what I'm going to do is get rid of doing the glass cockpit for the C-120, and I'll probably go back and do the steam version of the 172, and then we'll start looking at some other aircraft and how we can transfer what we've done and create more cockpits. Okay then, thanks a lot, and I'll see you at the next one.